Ladies and gentlemen, get your climbing gear ready. It is time for us to scale Mount Panorama here for the European Raidillon Split. Hello everybody, my name is Nick Amo and I want to welcome you to the European Sprint Series broadcast. Alongside me, as always in the booth, is Mr. Kevin Parody and Simon Bauer. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I am exceptionally well. It's early in the morning. We get to watch some racing. I get to do a little racing later and then watch some more. So, busy day of watching other people do stuff.
Simon?
And welcome from me. I've said it once, I've said it, I'm going to say it again. Out of all the races of this season, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most. So I think we're in for a very enjoyable evening.
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for this circuit. Bit of a love-hate, but, you know, it's a simple case of the mountain giveth and the mountain taketh, and, well, at some point we all get our dues, if you will.
Well, I can't help but noticing that a couple of players, either accidentally or on purpose, have carried their pineapple, pro pineapple liveries over to this week. And I couldn't help thinking that of all the places to have one, this is the perfect place to scrape that pineapple off of your car.
You know what? I agree with that. Yeah.
That is a lot of dedication to the school of pineapple, but also, as you said, a dangerous place to show that pineapple love.
Also, just a dangerous place in general, as we saw Cuthbert there getting knocked around by the tree. That's one thing that a lot of these drivers are going to have to watch out for, is just how narrow this circuit is. I mean, it is barely wide enough for two cars. So if you make any sort of mistake outside of, you know, the entirety of Sector 3 and then Sector 1, you're probably going to take someone else out.
Oh yeah, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for people to crash coming down the hill, stick the car into the middle of the track sideways, and then no one gets past. You can't go past left, you can't go past right, and then it's a game of luck, or whoever is fastest on the return to garage button.
No, you can make it around. You just gotta, you know, just disregard safety for about 2 seconds.
Or do the 147-point turn in the middle of the dipper while everyone waits.
Yeah,
the nice thing is we do have a live safety car in this series, and I've watched a couple of replays, and it has happened. And half the field literally comes to a stop on the mountain and waits for someone to either get straightened out or return to garage. And then, but at least with the live safety car, that's not the end of the race for those folks. They do get to catch up.
That is true.
Out of all the racetracks we have in this season, this is probably the one where we need the safety car the most. Not sure if it's going to come out, because it's still a relatively rare occurrence for the safety car to be on track during the race, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, I watched a bit of the Asia-Pacific races, and it was a sort of 50-50. The one race, there were a number of safety cars very early on. The other one, they got well into it. It is a 90-minute race today. So if ever there was a race to take it easy those first couple of laps and get it single file and sort of get the tires warmed and tighten those belts and then start racing, this would be that race and that track. And that's why I'm really happy to see this long format at this tough track.
I think by the first couple laps, I feel like you mean the first several couple laps, because you know the thing with Bathurst is you have sectors 1 and 3, which is very, very calm. It's very chill, as we see Coelho going down the Conrad Straight right now into sector 3. So it's very relaxing, but it's really that sector 2 where you need to be paying attention. And you know, normally if you do this sort of track, you might do a 20-minute or a 30-minute race. You know, I don't know how often this track ever comes up in the competitive servers. I'm assuming not that often, and that's only an hour. So to tack on an extra 30, you know, it's going to become a war of attrition. You know, when I raced here, that's what it was. So I think as we get later on in the race, we may see more mistakes. People may get a little too comfortable, maybe just lessen their focus a bit. But that's going to be something that we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, you can get lulled into a false sense of security on this track. After a while, you feel like you've got it down, and you feel like you can lap pretty consistently, and then at some point, when you're comfortable enough, you might drop your concentration for a tiny bit while going over the hill, and that's the day or the second you end up in the wall. So it's got to be 90 minutes of 100% concentration over the hill at least. You can have a tiny moment of relaxation on the straights, but that's definitely sorely needed. I'm not sure if anyone could survive 90 minutes on this track if it was just the mountain section.
One other thing to think about there too is we're looking at somewhere between 40 and 44 laps today. So that's not 5 times over the mountain or 10 times over the mountain. That's 40 plus times that you have to get it right. And that's just you. If anyone around you gets it wrong on any one of those 40 plus times around, you're going to have to deal with that too. So, and we're seeing comments in chat like I'm driving on the edge and still I'm a second off. So another thing about this track is it's kind of a built-in trap because there's places that just beg you to push. But the second you push 1 millimeter too far on this track, it's over. So patience, patience, patience. But it tempts you to be less than patient.
It definitely does. I would like to just take a moment before we start our stream to notify everybody about a recent development in our community. For those of you that don't know, Michael Babb, who's quite a prominent member here in the OOR, was recently diagnosed with bowel cancer over the past few days. And, you know, him being a member of our community, someone who we care about very much, we've been looking to help out any way we can. So we have 2 things as a way for supporting Mr. Babb. The first one is a GoFundMe that we have set up to try and help alleviate some of the financial costs of his medical procedures. I believe we have a link for that, so if we could drop that in chat. I don't have it right now. But we also
it's in there already. Somebody beat you to it.
Ah, there we go. So there is
hashtag Racing for Babs.
Yep, Racing for Babs. And then not only that, but we also have a special endurance event on September 3rd. It is the 8 hours of Paul Ricard, and of course that will be broadcasted and everything. So, you know, to Michael and his family, we are here to support you. Any support you guys can give is absolutely appreciated, and we do wish him a very speedy and, you know, so what's the word? Just, you know, we hope the best for him, really, a nice speedy recovery and everything. So I just wanted to say that now here at the start, just so we can kind of get the ball rolling on that one.
And I'll add to that slightly. As somebody that just came out of the rookies last year, Michael is absolutely a mentor in that class. He is always in Discord, always helping, and is absolutely essential to this or a community. And you know, being able giving a chance to pay that back is a chance I hope that everybody that can afford to, please do. But we are getting ready for qualifying.
We are.
Well said, and from me as well, all the best for Michael. But focusing on the racing for just a second, the track is wet, my friends. The track is fully wet.
This is...
Now, it's not raining, so it's going to dry.
No.
So it's going to be one of those qualifyings where the first few laps are definitely not going to be representative or not going to be competitive. These first few laps are just going to be for you to get used to the track or just get your setup dialed in, and then as the track gets drier towards the end of quali, that's when we'll see the fastest laps. I'm not sure if we're going to be fully dry by the end of those 15 minutes, but we'll see.
I highly doubt it. I think with the number of cars, I don't know if there's going to be much of a racing line, but then again, you know, it is 15 minutes, and thankfully it isn't raining. So this leads me to believe that perhaps after the AP splits, Mullick went out with the garden hose and got the track all wet. I will say, this is the one track I would never want to have a wet race on. I don't care. I don't want to do it because, you know, I choose to not kiss the walls. They're very beautiful walls, don't get me wrong. They're just a little too aggressive for me.
Those sponsors paid good money to have their names on the wall. Far be it from me to scrape them off.
Exactly.
But having said that, yes, it is dry now, but the icons tell us that in 30 minutes it's going to start raining. Given that the race is 2 hours after quali in the game, we'll have to see how long that rain lasts. They could be starting this race on at least a damp track.
They could.
And even if the race starts in the dry, this little rain shower that's going to show up in 30 minutes is definitely going to tell us that rain is a possibility for the race as well.
I wonder how many folks are sweating knowing that they did not prepare a wet setup. As he scrabbles a note to himself on the side on a small piece of paper, "Make wet setup."
Didn't it rain in, what was it, Beckett splits in the AP race last night? I think it did. I thought it did.
They were. I didn't see the whole thing, but they were talking about rain. Oh no, that's right. Rain had come in one, and they were talking about rain showing up in the other one, and that was, if I remember, about half an hour in. So
okay, all right, that's what I was thinking of.
I guess it's up to the random number generators from this point. But I'd just assume that they got it out of their system now.
Probably. I'd
like to drive on a nice dry track tonight, please.
Mm-hmm.
I can just barely get around this place in the dry. So.
It was raining in Sunset Split also, is what Dawn is saying in the chat. And interestingly, I gotta say, from my experience, of course it's scary as hell to see rain around Bathurst, but it's not actually as terrible as you think it would be. Because I think a big part of it is that, of course, one of the most dangerous things in the rain are the curbs. And the curbs are something you basically don't use over the hill at Bathurst anyway. And then also, being in the rain at Bathurst invites a special kind of carefulness. So, while at some tracks where you have lots of runoff, you may make more mistakes because you just don't really have the immediate motivation to be extremely careful. Bathurst is obviously one of those where you're scared, you're extra careful, and that helps you slowly build up to it.
Oh yeah, I think there's going to be some death grips on the wheel today in this weather, which is, of course, exactly what you don't want to do, but it seems like it inevitably happens.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've had a bit of a format change, at least with pit stops, with tonight's race. If I'm not mistaken, we are now running no mandatory pit stops, although, let's be honest, you're going to need to stop anyways. But I could have sworn there was a couple of others.
No fixed fuel time, so the 25-second fixed fuel time is out. If you can only take 8 seconds of fuel and go, you can do that now.
Okay.
So essentially, they took all the limits off, and this is the longest race of the season and a totally open pit format.
That's probably a smart idea, especially like we talked about earlier with the focus you need. Yeah, you're probably gonna want to take at least know that you could probably have a little bit of a custom respite. Maybe, you know, if you're off the track for too long, you might lose focus a little bit. But that'll just have to be something we have to wait and see. Right now, though, it's Fellion on top with a 2-minute 10. So these times probably won't be coming down all that much compared to dry, but it's certainly a baseline to start at.
That is almost 10 seconds off of where the top practice times were. So either a lot of respect is being given, or it's greasy out there, or probably a bit of both.
Oh, we are already down to a damp track, so the track is quickly drying. And who knows, we might get to an actually dry track by the end of this qualifying session. But what I'm seeing is that just a few seconds ago, a little icon popped up telling us that in 10 minutes it's going to start raining. Now the qualifying session is going to end in 9 minutes. Mm-hmm. That rain icon popped up 30 seconds ago. So it's probably going to start raining 30 seconds after the qualifying session is done. Of course, when the session is done officially, there's going to be still people on active laps. So that's going to be something you have to keep in mind, that it might, if you, carry out a long qualifying, that it might start raining on your final lap, and that you actually want to maybe finish a bit sooner or put in your best efforts a bit sooner than that.
And then I see after that again, the weather radar says it's going to stop raining again. So on and off rain at the mountain, that could make this race, not like it needed any help, but it could make it much more interesting.
But it's all going to come down in the race. It can rain all day in quali, but you know, how do these drivers fare when it comes to 90 minutes of straight driving at, I would argue, one of the most treacherous circuits that we've raced at?
It's probably the most treacherous circuit in Assetto Corsa Competizione, for sure.
And also with the pit straight, hell corner, and then the mountain straight, you can easily be 2x2, 5 or 6 or 7 rows deep by the time you finally get to quarry and start up the mountain. You get all the way to there before you have to sort it out, and by then you're doing 240 kilometers an hour when you're making that decision on cold tires and potentially in the wet. So it's breath-holding time.
Yeah, quarry is one of those interesting corners where it might look inviting to try to go around the outside or just, you know, keep position around the outside, but it actually angles a bit off camber on the outside, so it's very, very hard to keep your position around the outside of another car there. But it's possible to go through quarry too wide, of course, and then stay too wide on that little stretch until, what is it called, the cutting, I think?
Yes.
But that little left-hand kink before the cutting, that is the absolute latest moment where you are 100% forced to go single file. If you try to go too wide through that little kink and then the cutting, there's a very high chance that things are going to go wrong.
And go wrong in such a way that leaves you with a parking lot behind you coming up the hill.
Yeah.
What's the parking lot on Mount Panorama? Does anyone know?
Oh, you mean the one that starts at the cutting and goes all the way up to the S's?
Yeah, basically. Is it good? You know, what are the rates like? You know, is it gonna break the bank, or am I gonna be, you know, sort of set to, you know, like, oh, you know, just park it up, no problem. Hopefully, I don't get a ticket from the police. I know that during parts of the year when Mount Panorama is not used as a racetrack, that the police are very, very they're very much posted up at the Conrad Strait just to be 100% that no one's sending it too hard.
And I suspect those tickets fund a fair amount of public works.
You could probably cover the cost of the race if you get enough people to speed there. All right, new event for the entire OOR community. Go to Mount Panorama and help pay for the next event there, however you can. Preferably in a car.
Bathurst may have started out as a gold mining town, but the gold mining is happening elsewhere now.
Well, we've got some gold coming up here.
Tourist traps as gold mines, but
this track is my kind of tourist trap. I don't care. Oh, you want to siphon 3,000 from me? Sure. Why not?
I spent a fair part of my career working in tourist traps. I'm allowed to talk filth about them. So, we're down to almost 209 flat. The track is definitely drying. And yes, as you pointed out earlier, Simon, normally in this instance, you want to be the last person onto that last lap. But in this case, you might just get rained on if that's you. So you might want to be the sort of third, fourth last person on that last lap.
Sure. And actually the times aren't coming down as quickly as I was expecting. I mean, we're still in the 209s, only about a second faster than at the start of this qualifying. So it's looking like it's not gonna dry completely. And I doubt we're gonna be getting much faster than this. So I believe starting now and probably going right until the end of quali, so the next 4 minutes or so, those are probably going to be the fastest 4 minutes on this track, and then we're going to be seeing a slower track again.
Well, right now,
so if you wanna put in your best effort, then now is the time.
Yeah, Ryan Walker's doing just that. He's currently about 3/10 up on his personal best here as he's heading down through the S's towards towards the forest elbow, and then he's just got some nice time to himself to just put the pedal down. Take a moment, breathe, and get ready for at least the chase, and then down to Murray's corner. But everybody else sort of struggling right now. We've got a couple other people up. Schelkens, that I can never pronounce, the Dutchman, 1.6 up in the Ferrari right now. P15 at 212.4 for him as he rounds the final corner here. So, well, that should put him up a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean up to 11th. Another driver right now, Casper Lair, is 3/10 as he's going up through the cutting right now. And Ryan Walker, believe it or not, has picked up even more time, 7/10 up. That's going to be a 2:08.3. That definitely sets the precedent, especially because Partez, second and then some back.
Solid lap. 1.3 seconds ahead of P2 right now. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other fast laps coming in, but that is an amazing benchmark to set so far.
Certainly set the bar. The other thing I'm noticing is the different cars at the front of the field this week. Certainly, obviously, the track's got a lot to do with that, but we've got Astons, Hondas, a Porsche on a speed track, Bentleys, all ahead of the sort of regular group that we're used to seeing up there. Looks to me, at least at a glance, that the Ferraris are particularly having a tough time here, and that does not surprise me at all.
No, definitely not. This is a track that historically the horses can't really prance as much as they want to. It's also kind of surprising to see the Mercedes this far down in 7th place, because normally this track sort of suits the Mercedes, yeah?
It sure does, but it is a bit of a tricky car to drive in the rain, so that's definitely gonna hurt Chris Vining there. I mean, we saw him on top of the leaderboards in practice, so he's definitely gonna be hoping for a dry race, but so far, qualifying, it's not going his way.
Now we got a minute and then a couple of coins of change here as we get ready to round out qualifying. We'll see if that rain does come within the next, say, 40 or so seconds as we possibly predicted. Right now, it is Ryan Walker up top with that 2:08.3 and then Ben Mullard at 2:08.4, Hearn with a 2:08.9. In fact, it's Union Jacks up there on the top 3 positions.
Well, I guess it shouldn't surprise anyone that folks from the British Isles can drive in the rain. As you were saying that, I watched our current leader bold enough to be putting 2 tires off the track still, even in these conditions, to get that best possible line and apex into a corner.
And
get to the
Vining, we talked about it. We said that the Mercedes should be good here, and it looks like, regardless of the weather, the man from one of the most rain-soaked parts in the world is showing us that, yes, it does rain a lot in his hometown, but he's a master of the wet.
Oh yeah, the track has gone down to greasy now, so it only is gonna be probably a few seconds slower than usual. I think if anyone can put a really clean lap together, now is the time to really see a proper improvement.
Well, Ben Mullard here in the Audi, currently P3 with that 2:08.4, is 4/10 up right now, going into the Forest Elbow onto Conrad Straight. This could be a possible P1 if he can stitch it together nicely, but he's still got a few more corners. And here comes the rain down right at the end of practice, or in qualifying, excuse me.
I was just going to say the rain is falling, so those that are sort of just heading up the mountain now, it might make a difference by the time they get to the Chase and Murray's.
But if you're someone like Mullard, you're happy. You're like, hey, I'm on my last lap. I'm doing quite well for myself, and well, I don't have to worry about my track getting any more greasy. And down into Murray's corner. Across the line, Mullard, provisional pole. A 2:08.20. However, this man right here, Chris Vining, is also on an improvement of not just 1/10, not just 2/10, but almost 3/4 of a second here. Down into the Chase on the brakes just after that 100 board, throwing it through the chicane as best he can. He lost a 10th here, maybe 2, but he's still going to be more than enough to take this top spot. He's just got one more corner to get through. Probably one of the easiest corners in the world. Around he goes. He is 2/10 up. Is it going to be enough to take pole position? No, it is not. Vining, he had almost 3/4 of a second, but he's going to find himself 600ths off pole position. And gentlemen, that is going to do it for qualifying as Granias comes across in P13. Oh, there he goes.
And the horse pranced just enough that I have to eat a little crow. Belgium put themselves into 4th place in that Ferrari, just over half a second off the fastest lap.
Well, now we get ready. Gentlemen, the rain still falls. Better get those wet setups ready. Let's take a peek here at the grid, see what we're rolling with. But let's...
The rain...
This is gonna be good.
Looks like it's not going to fall long. I mean, in 10 minutes it's already set to be dry. It's still going to be cloudy, which means the track is going to dry slowly. But it's probably, surely the best idea to start on wet tires. But there's a pretty good chance that the track is going to be drying relatively early, and we're going to be going to, well, dry tires with our first pit stop very early in the race.
Well, this is where strategies get finalized. This is where the strategies get modified. And this is where drivers get the last little minute of calm before the storm. We will have our usual parade lap, and that'll give everyone a moment to get acquainted with what's to come. But it'll be 90 minutes of racing ahead of us for this European split as we continue to file down our starting grid here. It's Mullard on top, from Vining to Walker, Fellion and Hazel top 5, Hearn, Guerrero, Partez, Sayan, Cuthbert rounding out the next 5, and then down to Coelho, Humans, Kranyas, Mick, Skeletons. I'm still never going to pronounce that. Saglayer, Cairns, and Fisher rounding out the rest of the grid. It's going to be quite a race, I think.
I think Skeletons would be a pretty badass surname, so I doubt it's going to be mad at you for that.
Hi, my name is Mick Skeletons. Excuse me? Yes, Skeletons. See, I have one inside of me. I thought, hey, why not make it my last name?
I'm going to take a wild guess and suggest that they hate October.
Now, why would that be?
That joke has got to be made for an entire month, even for people that do know the correct pronunciation. We're less than a minute away from the start of this formation lap, and I can hardly imagine being in one of these cars right now. You spent all week, let's be fair, probably practicing in the dry. This track is challenging enough in the dry to give yourself a couple of hours to do wet practice. It's probably not a thing that maybe other than the front runners have done. And it looks like it is actively raining, but again, it's going to stop within the first 10 minutes. So given the length of the outlap around here, it's going to be all but stopped raining by the time they come around to the start, and the track can start to dry for, according to the weather, at least 30 minutes.
And it seems that we have some crazy risk takers who are starting on dry tires. From what it looks like right now, unless I'm getting some bugs, Chris Vining in P2 is starting on dry tires, as well as Idak Partes in P8 in the Honda. And those seem to be the only two who risk starting on the dry tire. They are going to be very, very slow compared to the others on the first few laps, but who knows, maybe it's going to dry quickly enough to give them actually the upper hand and make that strategy work out.
Well, racing is about risk versus reward, and those guys are definitely getting ready to see what the reward is going to be, as Mullard pulling away to lead the field off. Thankfully, there is no collision, so these guys are free to pop into each other's cockpits and give a little slap on the helmet and then head back out. Predictions, though, for this race. Anyone we should be looking towards? Perhaps maybe some possible winners, maybe some unlikely heroes?
My bets for the fastest driver or the fastest car is going to be on Vining. But I would be crazy to predict that he's going to win or predict that anyone is going to win, because anything can happen here, especially in the rain.
I was going to say, I won't pick a person, like a name that I think is going to win, but I think it's going to take some very safe driving, some very smart decision making, and a fair dollop of luck.
They're
around on the outlap. Hopefully there was no damage done. I'm not sure. I believe you can retake your position. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are here or whether you rejoin at the rear. I should look that up. That's something I should know. But yes, it just shows exactly how treacherous it is already, and they're only going around at pace lap speeds.
Well,
Yeah, fortunately, no damage for Vining on that little spin, but that is going to be a wake-up call. But maybe having made the wrong decision. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, he's catching up to the pack. This is definitely one part where having dry tires on a wet track is not ideal through Skyline and down the S's. So Vining is making his way through the field. He will be able to regain his position up at the front. He's just got to sort of get there without wrecking his car. He does have a lot of time. Thankfully, Mullard has slowed the field down to give our Mercedes driver a chance. You can actually see Mullard here creating a solid gap, and we will be waiting for that Mercedes to push on through. And there it is. So Vining, will he stay on the dries or will he dive for the wets?
Surely taking the dry tires is an intentional decision. There's a possibility that some of the two cars on dries accidentally made that decision. Well, accidentally took the dry tires. But I do believe in Vining's case, in P2, he did that on purpose, because it is a risky take, but it is, you know, an actual option that I would have thought about.
It's that, yeah, can I survive on these until they dry line develop? And my answer to that is nope. I probably can't survive on these on the dry line. So, but those with talent, those that end up at the front of the pack, in this case, they've made that decision, and they've put not only themselves at risk, but everybody behind them that they're going to find out very quickly who's on slicks. Yeah, that's something you're going to want to take into account.
Well, they should take it into account right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's green, green, green here at the mountain. It's a beautiful getaway for Mullard. Vining having to suffer a little bit with those slick tires down into hell corner. We get some three-wide action in the background. No bumps, no bruises. It's the Ferrari of Felion actually getting tripped up a little bit. Hazel's going to open up that opportunity down the inside. Same with Partez taking the initiative and pulling alongside Hearn in the Porsche. So now we head up to the mountain. Vining P2 right now, leading Walker. Mullard is just gone and away here into Quarry Bend they go. We got too wide very late on the brakes for Felion. It almost ended in tears. Him and Hazel actually into the wall. We've got everybody pushing through along with Sayan up towards up towards the cutting. We are gonna see some too wide action here as everybody's sorting through the starting lap, and it's just starting to get ready here on the mountain. It's been a very solid getaway from Mullard. Vining as well on those slicks. Everybody else just picking up a piece of real estate and trying to find that dry line.
Oh, Vining is suffering. They've just lost one position there. They're about to lose maybe another one. Heading over the top of the...
Oh, there it is.
Into the wall and off in the dirt.
Vining, joining. He's trying to get that Mercedes under control. Thankfully, he doesn't get picked up by anybody else, as we see the McLaren of Guerrero going down the inside for a position on Hazel. And every single driver here, you can see Hazel just kissing the bumper there, but Vining is definitely not sunshine and rainbows right now. The sun isn't even out yet.
Now, these position changes or position losses for Vining, they were to be expected. The little touches of the wall, they may not be quite so appreciated by him. But he knows right now is just survival mode. He doesn't really have to care about losing that many positions, because as the track dries, anyone else is going to be diving into the pits, and that is where he can profit.
Absolutely. Yeah, his only enemy right now is the track. The rest of them is just, yeah, let him go. Pretend you're getting blue flagged. Let him go, because a pit stop here is not the longest pit stop around, but you will more than make it up if you can stay within a second or two a lap.
Well,
I gotta say, look at Partez on the dry tires as well. He seems to be doing much better than Vining. Already passed him up into P6.
Yep, he's just leading this pack right now. We got Mullard away, and then Walker and Hearn kind of keeping close eyes on each other, and then it's down to Hearn, Sayan, and Felion, and then you've got Partez just leading what seems like an entire battalion of cars up the mountain here from Hazel, Vining, Coelho getting side by side, the two McLarens in the background there getting ready to go into the Quarry Bend, along with Granez, and everybody is just praying for some dry line. It has stopped raining, and now this is the time where pit strategies start coming into play for this first part. How soon do you go in?
Yeah, our dry runners are going to be crossing their fingers that the track dries very quickly now. All of our wet runners are now having to try to figure out where the perfect time to pit is, where the perfect, turning point from wet tire optimum to dry tire optimum is.
Watching those temps and watching those tire pressures, and just, yeah, when they start to skyrocket, you have to. But there's that magic crossover point where this lap, it's faster on slicks. And getting that right on a track this long can give you a big advantage. Getting it wrong, put you in the wall.
And speaking of you're in the wall, if Partas and Vining, I have to say, if they can survive until the track is properly dry, then I think they've made a very, very good strategy choice, because all the wet runners who are going to have to dive into the pits, they're going to be losing, let's say, 50, probably 55 seconds to the dry runners.
It's something else has just occurred to me, though. Those people on the slicks are not only on slicks on a damp track. They are also on tires which have to be far below their regular operating window, because when it dries, they're going to warm up. So if they want them to be the right temp when it dries out, they're running on low pressure slicks right now.
That's why it's actually very impressive to watch these two drivers. Actually, we know Vining had a bit of trouble at the start, but right now both of them, Partas and Vining, are both running very strongly, considering, well, dry tires on a wet track. And Partas is actually going for an overtake on Hazel now.
Up the mountain straight they go into Quarry. He does have that inside line, but with the slicks, he's got to be a little bit careful here. He's not on the racing line. And will he get the move done? Yes, he does, just barely. As they get up towards the cutting, Hazel having to just slot in behind. It's been an excellent move there as the rest of the field follows suit. Grania's in the thick of things right now in P9, and Vining's actually fallen back to P11.
They did exactly the opposite to what you guys were talking about there. In your case, the dry tires were on the inside. In this case, the dry tires were on the outside, and they did not hold going through the cutting. They ended up outside the curb and losing 2 positions, and very nearly, but not quite, kissing the wall.
The track is already damp, so it's drying very, very quickly. I think there's very, very soon going to be a point where dry tires are going to be faster than the wet tires, and that is when all our wet drivers are going to have to dive into the pits and basically leave Partas and Vining out there on their own at the front.
Absolutely. Right now, though, Daniel Hurd coming under attack from Sawi in the boat as they go down towards the kink. It's going to be 2x2. You've got Walker up ahead, currently with the fastest lap, and it's the Bentley, the big old boat, turning on the jets and getting around the Porsche. And it looks like Fallion might even have something to say about this as they head down towards Murray's corner. And it is getting ready. Ooh, Hearn trying to pick a line. Fallion looking for a move down the inside, but just has to sit back and fall into line. Hazel, though, leading from 6th place to Partes, Coelho, Grañas, Guerrero, Vining, and even Sack if you want. But these drivers, like we've talked about, it stopped raining, the track's damp, they're going to be drying this. The majority of these cars are on wets.
Well, Partes is certainly trying to find that dry line, and they got it a bit wrong. From right on the bumper of the car ahead to a fair bit back. But it won't take long to make up that time. As you said, the track is definitely starting to show a dry line already, or at least a drier line.
Well, there's still quite a lot of time before these cars get to have that dry line. Vining side by side with Guerrero, who clips the wall there. Thankfully, the McLaren able to carry on. A little bit of side damage there for the 720S, but was not redirected into traffic. Very scary. Even at the start of this mountain sector too, you're still in danger.
Oh, yeah, there's nowhere on the mountain you're not in danger.
No, you can sector 1 and 3. You could be pretty safe. It's just, you know, sector 2 exists.
But they are racing hard through here. Some of our regular suspects up at the front, Felgen and Hearn, fighting for 4th place in this instance.
Hearn losing a lot of time there to the Bentley over that last lap, and it looks like Felgen even's going to try to take a bite out of this Porsche.
Ooh, we have a crash at the forest elbow.
Oh, Miguel Guerrero, yeah, 720, or the 720S. Hopefully not doing a bit of a 720. Let's roll this one back. Walk us through it, Simon.
Oh, yep. That is exactly what I was expecting. Rear tires more or less locked up in the wet. Rear starts going around, and then he basically spins in the opposite direction of the corner that he wants to go in. That is something that's very easy to do at the forest elbow, even in the dry, and in the wet even more. If your brake balance is just a tiny bit wrong, or you're just a tiny bit too aggressive on the brakes while still turning, that's gonna happen to you.
Yep, head-on collision, so this could possibly be back to the pits for 72. And in the pits right now, actually, Savon Cairns for how hard can it be? As this could possibly be the change onto slicks.
Wouldn't be surprised. Oh, the track has just now gone to greasy. I was about to say, the track only took, I think, less than 10 minutes to go up to greasy in qualifying. And sure, there's no guarantee that now that the track is counted as greasy by the game itself, that it's actually going to be faster to be on dry tires. But I think that point, if we haven't reached it yet, may be coming in at most 5 minutes.
Yep.
So this lap, next lap, at the very latest, probably in 2 laps, is where all the dry runners or the wet runners will want to come in.
Yep, and then Vining and Partez will gladly pick up those positions as everyone dives in to get on the next set of tires. Probably not the last set for this race. Right now, it is Coelho here. P8 as he goes wide at the top just before Skyline. That'll let Vining and Grañas through. 2 positions lost there off of one little mistake, and that just goes to show you how just deadly this track can be. If you give an inch, it's gonna take a mile out of your life, and you know, you just...
We have another...
Oh, we got the Bentley around of Sayan. Let's see if we can catch that.
That was the race for 3rd.
Oh.
It's the exact same thing that happened to Guerrero. Locking up the rears, now that the track is getting drier, now that the grip level is getting harder to judge.
Yep. Look, I believe there's a slight, like a slight dip at some point, I believe, right before Forest Elbow. I could be wrong, though. Or no, I'm thinking of... Is there? Like a slight...
There are so many ways to get that corner wrong.
I don't know. I've never gotten it wrong. I've always gotten it right.
Oh.
Well, okay, no, in the race I've gotten it right. In practice it's different, but we don't talk about that.
The track that does get a tiny bit bumpy there, and that is one where, as I said, even in the dry you have to be careful not to be braking too hard while you're still turning. Because it is easy, even in the dry, to lock up your rear tires and then just dive into the right side of the wall.
Well, taking damage here, I guess, makes you decide while you're sitting in the pits. I mean, if you took enough that you're pitting, you're probably repairing the damage. But do you switch to slicks? Do you take this opportunity to sort of sneak in a pit stop and take some fuel? Maybe. I mean, we haven't burned that much yet, but take some fuel, put on the slicks, let them repair the damage, and just go out on an empty track and wait and hope that the weather does you a favor. Well,
you should. The sun's starting to come out, so that's going to just get this track dried even faster now, as we have Lair also into the pits, possibly on to slick tires, and then I believe the rest of these wet runners should be going in, but Partez and Vining, it looks like their little gamble is paid off despite Vining's little slip up early on. It will pay off as he's sitting in P7, sandwiching Hazel right now.
I'm seeing some quite heavy damage actually on Cuthbert in the McLaren in P14 right now, but he is staying out, probably waiting for the point where it's safe to go on dry tires, and I would say it's probably going to be in this lap. where he's going to come
Possibly.
in and
We've got Cairns actually with some damage. Oh, we just missed it. I think he might have locked it into the final corner. No, it looks like he just sort of misjudged how much track he had to work with. So that was the yellow flag that was out earlier. And
also just had another little slip up at the forest elbow of Coelho. Not sure if he was trying to go for an overtake on Granis there, but he did dive to the left, coming into the braking zone for the forest elbow. Did the exact same thing we've seen twice now, locking up, spinning to the right, and actually spun into Granis there.
Yeah, but he's into the pits as well, so it looks like these dry tires are coming off. You can see the front of Granis.
They certainly are.
Ferrari just demolished Cuthbert and Vischer as well into the pits, so the wets are coming off, the dries are going on, but if you're Vining and Partez, you've already accounted for this.
Well, Vining in the last lap, anybody needed any telling that it was time to switch, they went from being passed to flat out blowing by Hazel. They've opened up almost 2 seconds in less than a quarter of a lap. So it is definitely time to be on the dries.
And the fastest lap of the race is now being held by Partez, one of our original dry runners. So yeah, as you said, even on the last lap, the dry tires were already roughly 2 seconds faster than the wet tires. So in this lap, it's definitely going to be even more exaggerated, that difference. So whoever is still out on wet tires, I gotta say, probably a bit too long with the wet tires.
Yeah,
and they are not going to last. If you switch to Helicam and have a look, this track is all but dry. There is no wet line left.
Wondering if some of our wet drivers right now are trying to go long to actually wait until roughly 1 hour and 5 minutes are left on the clock. Because if they are able to stay out 10 more minutes on those wet tires, then they will be able to go to the end after that pit stop. So that is something to think about, but it's got to be hard. It's got to be risky to stay out another 10 minutes on those wet tires. And you definitely have to stay out, at least 5 more minutes. Probably, if you want to be safe, 10 more minutes to actually make it to the end without another pit stop on fuel.
Well, Walker's going into the pits. He doesn't want to gamble it. Being out on even a greasy track in wet tires is never fun. You know, I remember I did a race at Imola where it was going to rain within 10 minutes, so I threw the wets on, and it ended up paying off quite well, although those first few laps were quite uncomfortable. I just didn't have grip. I couldn't turn in. I couldn't do anything. So while maybe 5 minutes could be the call, I think anything beyond that may be a bit questionable. Humans and skeletons into the pits as well. So
that gap, again, Vining and Partez are cutting through the field, 4th and 5th. Vining now owner of the purple lap of the day already.
It's very
it's not going to be a balance. If you actually want to try that strategy of staying out on the wet tires until you can basically make the next pit stop your final pit stop, then it's going to be a balance between staying out as short as possible on the wet tires, of course, but coming in late enough to be able to take your fuel to the end. And right now, the top two in our race, Mullard and Felgen, still out on wets, coming down the hill right now. So we're gonna be seeing relatively soon if they are staying out. And if they still are staying out, then I'm 100% sure they are trying to go for that strategy of keeping the wets on as long as possible and only doing a one-stopper.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite the challenge, to say the least. Mullard, though, still leading this race, 5.5, almost 6 seconds up to Felgen, and then Felgen, well, he's sort of just in his own little land right now, but Partez and Vining sort of just tandeming off of each other, trying to gain time on these two. They know they're going to be quicker overall just because they are on those dry tires, and this track is pretty much as dry as it's been all day, but there's still a little bit of moisture on the track right now. Mullard opting to stay out, and Felgen actually going in, so this will promote Partez and Vining up to P2. Mullard maybe hurt us, maybe going for that 10-minute time.
Yeah, if Felgen wants to go to the end, he'll have to stay out, well, at least 1 hour and 11 minutes on one fuel tank, which in most cars is going to be a huge issue. I'm not sure if the Ferrari is actually able to do that on fuel-saving maps. I think the Ferrari is one of the best cars to be fuel-saving. So if anyone is going to make that happen, then it's definitely going to be him. But yeah, in the chat, Dwara is asking if there's no pit window. There is indeed no pit window. There's also no mandatory pit stop. Now, it's a 1 hour and 30-minute race, so anyone is going to be doing at least one pit stop, but they aren't forced to do any more than that.
Nope. And with the track now,
past Partez now, and into second place. The two of them racing for what I suspect will very soon be the lead. The gap's 5.2 right now. We'll see how quickly they close that.
The track is
almost
fast now.
5 seconds faster on the dry tires than on the wet tires right now. Looking at the gap between, or the pace difference between Mullard and Vining.
And the track is already up to fast, so we could potentially see an optimum track by the end of this race.
Yep, the curves are definitely still going to be a bit greasy right now, but the actual main racing line, 100% dry. So right now is where our wet runners are definitely going to suffer.
Yeah, Mullard has to really let off down into Forest Elbow. I mean, he's most of the time...
Partez in the wall.
Oh, Partez. Oh, no. Let's run it back.
When a great decision goes wrong, in Forest Elbow, where else? Forest, your elbow's a pain in my ass.
Oh, he actually clips the wall a little bit.
Wrecked.
He clips that wall just a little bit on the right side and ends up just spinning around. Thankfully, was able to vacate the line and let everyone else through. But Partez now, quite a lot of damage in the gamble to stay out because of the slicks. It paid off, but the mountain giveth, the mountain taketh, and Mullard is going to taketh those wet tires off and giveth Vining that P1, something I'm sure he's been waiting for. And now with this dry track, I think it's time to see just how fast this Mercedes can be.
It's payoff time. This is when you start to smile because the gamble you took is now paying off. What you have to do now is avoid what just happened to Partez. You're in the ascendant now. Don't give that up by stuffing it in the wall.
Exactly, Vining with that
in the ball. At that place, I mean, we've seen so many cars in the ball there at the Forest Elbow so far, but this one was a little bit different. But this is also an easy mistake to make. There's a tiny little bump coming out of the ball on the right, and if you are pushing to the extreme, and if you are trying to maximize track width, you gotta be aware of that little bump. If you aren't, then you're gonna hit it, and that's what happened to Partez.
And that outside wall is always there waiting for you to be a little too brave as well. And it's another one of those ones where when you touch that wall, you think, uh-oh, but then you hit the button and you find out it hasn't done that much damage, and you don't learn your lesson. And you hit it again later and take a bunch of damage, and then you're done.
Well, we still have well over an hour to go. Daniel Hearn, P2, leading two backmarker McLarens here. Down through Skyline into the S's, so he's got a bit of breathing room from himself down to Hazel, and once Hazel does catch up, there's going to be 2 McLarens to get through, so that's even more room for this Porsche driver. Down the inside there is Guerrero running alongside Cuthbert here, down into Conrad Straight and through the kink here in just a moment's time. But now with these dry tires being on, now it's just getting into hot lap mode. Ryan Cuthbert getting a little bit impatient. He knows he's got another friendly manufacturer on his tail. Getting around is not going to do you too good, and now they're getting blue flagged as Hazel comes up.
Yeah, that was that's that frustrating moment when you're a lap down, but you're faster, at least in some sections of the track, than the car in front of you, but that blue flag starts to wave, and there's different blue flag rules in different leagues. The ones here are fairly stern. That was an assertive move, which they got away with. It didn't work, but at least there was no wreckage. But the blue flag rules are fairly strict in OOR. They've only got a certain amount of time to get out of the way, and there are plenty of places to get out of the way here as long as you're not in Sector 2.
Looking to the inside is Cuthbert. On to Hearn. Like you said, you're faster, but you're just stuck behind someone else because you're a lap down from an earlier mistake. And as we get up here into the cutting, it's still going to be... Oof, Cuthbert thinking about a move, actually going for it. He's done. He's tired of sitting behind Hearn. He is not going to care about blue flag rules, and actually, he's going to make it... He's going to make it Guerrero's problem. Because now Guerrero's got to get out of the way, and he's going to lose time to Cuthbert. Look at the gap he's already pulled.
Yes, they have absolutely justified that pass. The sort of written or unwritten rule is always it's okay to unlap yourself as long as you can drive away. And they have absolutely proven that they're capable of doing that. So for me, that justifies that move.
Absolutely.
Yep, and that is the pace gap between the dry and the wet tires we're seeing right now.
Oh, they're
between
still
Cuthbert and Hearn. Yes,
Of
Hearn is
course.
staying out as long as possible. I mean, I gotta say he'll probably be coming in on this lap. After coming on this lap, changing his tires, he'll only have to drive 1 hour and 5 minutes, and he'll definitely be able to do that on a full tank.
I'm not sure what the stewards are going to think of that. There was a little bump of a lapped car on an unlapped car, and then now the move to get clear. So it was very obviously not intentional, but with this speed difference, I think it was almost inevitable. But there was the tiniest of taps of somebody unlapping themselves, and I know generally speaking that's frowned upon.
Well,
Hearn still stays out, and Partez comes in.
Oh, they must feel like they need one more lap. Partez in. They must have perhaps ruined their tires on that spin.
Possibly. It's maybe flat spotted it a little bit. So now
definitely.
Hazel
Took a little bit of damage, flat spotted the tires a tiny bit, but I can't imagine it was such a huge deal because he was able to catch up to Hazel again. I'm just thinking about if he maybe forgot to add fuel or something. It's gotta be something like that.
Or they've realized what you were talking about, and they think if they top up now, they can go all the way to the end. Were they trapped?
Oh,
in,
that is
traffic?
true.
I'm just wondering if you were trapped in traffic. It's an awfully early undercut, but it is a thought.
Yeah, they were definitely trapped in traffic. They were stuck behind Hazel and Hearn, and Hazel is still trapped behind Hearn, who is on the wet tires. And who knows, could maybe pay off. Pitting now, he's gonna be on some very worn and old tires towards the end of the race. But Bathurst is one of those tracks where tire wear isn't actually huge, and the pace difference between unused tires and an empty car on used tires is actually not very large. So maybe actually an absolute, I gotta say, 5-head strategy here to come in right now, because he's definitely going to be able to make it until the end, and he would have lost a lot of time behind Hearns, like Hazel is doing right now.
And you can turn some fairly quick laps on this track if you've got open track, if you're not racing with somebody. But yet another little love tap coming out of the elbow. Apparently the McLarens prefer the use of the carbon fiber horn.
Hazel, though, look at the speed into the king, excuse me. Down into the chase. Hearn just dipped onto the grass there. Hazel had so much more speed at a Forest elbow with that little love tap and just down Conrad straight. And Hazel into the pits.
That is very unusual, and Hearn is staying out. At this point, we've got almost a 10-second difference between dry and wet tires. So Hearn, I'm not sure why he's not coming in. He would definitely be able to be 100% safe until the end if he comes in right now, but something is making him stay out.
Maybe trying to lessen the damage done by a pit stop. Maybe he knows that some drivers are struggling still and is going to bank on that and say, you know what, I'll stay out because, you know, I could possibly lose less positions later on. The clouds, though, coming in again, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe Hearn has some sort of weather sensitive part of his body. I know my sister, her leg starts to hurt when it's going to rain, so I don't know, maybe he's got something like that. Maybe there could be more precipitation later on.
Do you have a digital sister where it works online?
I don't think so. I'll call her up. I'll ask her if it's going to rain in game, and then she'll probably be very confused, and then I'll just apologize and hang up.
Well, I mean, the rain radar is still telling us that it's going to be dry at least for the next 30 minutes, and that is, at least in terms of rain, is usually very accurate. And by the way, I gotta apologize, I mixed something up. Hazel was actually still on wets until she came in. So something made me think she was on dries, but no, she only just switched to dries.
But she was so much faster than Hearn. So
it seemed like it for sure.
Perhaps she managed those wet tires a little bit better than Hearn did, and that's why we saw the times that we did. Right now, though, cutting a little back into the field, Cuthbert still leading from Guerrero. It's the second now. They got around lap traffic, perhaps lap traffic got around them, and now they're having their own little race. Vining still up in the front with the fastest lap, actually, his previous one, which was a 2:03.567. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, seeing if that goes down. And we look to Hearn for just a moment as he is coming down towards Murray's corner and still staying out.
Very confusing, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm literally speechless, and that takes a lot. I do not know what to say about that. I do know what to say about Hazel, though, out on fresh slicks and taking no prisoners, touching apexes and driving like it's optimum conditions out there, and certainly filling up the mirrors of Grenyas at this point.
Yeah, flashing the headlights, possibly.
A little bit of headlights and all, yeah.
probably calling out. You could probably make the argument that there was some weaving there, one defensive line, or perhaps just saying, hey there, Grenyas. That's a really cool P8. I'll have you know I have a coupon. It's 100% off, so perhaps how about you just give me that P8 and I'll be on my way. Thank you very much, Hazel. A debutante here in the Sprint Series, and definitely, as far as I'm concerned, a debutante in the Sprint Series, but already making a name for herself, just cutting through fields left, right, and center during the season as we get ready to cross the 1 hour mark. And everybody on slicks, barring Hearn.
And yeah, to be on the give Hearn the benefit of the doubt. Those 65 minutes I was talking about that you can do on a full tank is just a rough estimate for most cars. I know the Porsche is often one of the cars that's yeah, a bit harder to carry long on fuel. I'm not sure if maybe he knows something I don't, and the Porsche really is only able to make, let's say, 60 minutes on a full tank of fuel on this lap. Or maybe it's the other way around, and I know something that he doesn't, which is that usually most of those cars should be able to go around 65 minutes on a full tank of fuel.
Possibly.
So,
Lair letting Sawyun through. Very interesting there. Wasn't lap traffic. Perhaps just saw how much faster the Bentley was and said, you know what, it's not worth my time to keep fighting. Just let him through, let him go. Up to P14 for the boat. Right now, Felion is out. Hearn has actually lost the position and now is going into the pits. So perhaps trying to see just how much he's going to be able to get out of this Porsche.
I mean, coming in right now is, I mean, 100% on the side of safety. He's without a doubt going to be able to make it until the end. If he came in 5 minutes earlier, who knows? As I said, not 100% sure about the Porsche and his tank size, but I would have thought that 65 minutes should be possible.
Well, he's only managed a 2:10 with these tires, which is well over 7 seconds off the pace. So
that was still in the wets. I think
yep,
in the dry, on these last 3 laps, he was doing around 2:12s, which is almost 10 seconds off of the fastest times we're seeing right now.
Yep, so maybe this is that go as late as possible, fill the tank all the way up, get some tires on, and just get out there and pray that everyone else ends up having to take pit stops. But time will tell. We have 58 and a half or so minutes to go here on the mountain. It's been quite the start for everybody, but now we're just settling in to that single file racing. No battles really happening across the field. Everyone just sort of doing their own thing. Although Partez having to deal with Vischer, doing very well right now. P10 it looks like, because I don't think anything's updated in game. No, everything has updated. It's ignore the number on the bottom right there. That hasn't been updated. Partez is in P10. Hazel is still running, and Hazel actually, or no, hold on, Hearn Did Hearn make a mistake? Oh no, Hearn was in the pits. I don't have...
Just at their pit, yeah.
Okay, I don't know how things work.
Vining is so far out in front. We've done that thing where you don't talk about the leader, but I'm going to for a second, because to the best of my knowledge, they have not pitted yet. So they are going to be stopping at some point. It is now completely open to them, depending on how much fuel they've got left and how much tires they feel like they've got, which should be lots, considering they were driving their slicks in the rain. They are not only way out in front, but are in a dominant position, because the people that are behind them by this much all still owe a pit stop too.
Yep, Chris Vining, 41 seconds down to Felion, just because of the slick tire option at the start. It looked like it may have been the wrong move with the spin on the parade lap, but Vining very much able to get this Mercedes tied down and has just exploded from the start. His previous lap was faster, 2:03.452, a little bit faster than before, but right now it's Felion who actually has fastest lap with a 2:03.33, and I'm sure Vining is going to be hunting that lap down.
They are, but they're also about to catch traffic, quite a bit of traffic, so this might be one of those moments where you pit to avoid having to fight through that. There is a large amount of open track behind them. I'm pretty sure they'd get back out with the lead still intact.
Well,
yeah, if you want to maximize your tires, in Vining's case, he should be staying out for another 10 minutes probably.
Yes.
And coming in at that 45-minute mark to have 2 equally long stints. But I have something interesting for you. What I've just checked is the average pit stop with tire change at Bathurst takes 57 seconds.
Ooh,
Felgen,
wow.
It seems, is 54 seconds behind Vining right now. So I'm actually not 100% sure if Felgen has to come in again. I think he was one of those late stoppers, but still a bit early for being able to go until the end. So Felgen may have to save some fuel towards the end of this race. But right now, if Vining were to stop right now or keep the gap consistent until he comes in, I think there's a good chance that Felgen might actually end up in front of him.
It would on the more worn tires, as you mentioned, so that would make for a very interesting race. A 3-second gap, not an unclimbable hill on this track.
Well, these guys have been climbing this hill quite well over the last several laps right now. Daniel Hearn starting to come under pressure here from Sayan as they go into Forest Elbow onto the back straight. You can just see that Bentley is just a behemoth right now. And when you've got that, what is effectively a refrigerator getting thrown at your face at well over 100 miles an hour, you don't want that. Down the inside goes Sayan into the kink. Will he get the move done? They're still side by side. Hearn is not backing out just yet, but unfortunately does later on the brakes here as we go into the chase. But it's going to be the move from the number 15 Bentley to move up another position. Hearn has got some work to do.
And Vining is so close, in fact, has just been allowed past by the marker right behind that fight you were just talking about. So they are now in amongst the back markers and continuing on. So I'm thinking that they were doing, Simon, what you were mentioning. They want to get to that magic 45-minute mark.
Yeah, that would, if you disregard traffic and all of that stuff, that would be the obvious choice. But who knows if that's going to work out as well as it seems. But on the other hand, let's see, I'm not 100% sure. Felgen's last lap was at 2:03.1, Vining's last lap at 2:03.7. So if the pace stays as it is, then Felgen is definitely going to catch Vining, which means the longer Vining stays out, the further he will probably be behind Felgen, or at least the higher his chance will be to come out behind Felgen once he does his pit stop.
Yes, that's we're at that point again where we're waiting. This I really like this format with the no rules pit stops, because we don't know, and there's so many choices that we're going to be guessing until they finally actually make the decision and show us what their plan is.
Well, it's going to be time for Vining. Ooh, Sayan with a little touchdown. Well, it's going to be time for Vining to make a decision. Felion, with the fastest lap, again improves upon it. It's a 2:03.1. So he is getting dangerously close to that 2-minute time. Fellion's last lap was a 2:03.3, Vining with a 2:03.7. So it looks like with Vining actually pulling up here on Hearn, wants to get around so he can get a move on as they go up and over the hill here. And so Vining still has another back marker to get through before he gets some clean air. But for right now, he's got to be looking at the clock and looking at the split down to Fellion. Maybe starting to make a few audibles.
Yeah, this is tough call time right here. They've had their way so far coming through traffic, not losing a little bit, and of course eventually Felgen will have to go through that traffic as well. But at the moment, I think they're managing to keep a close enough gap that at least it's going to be a good race after this pit stop. And once again, the back markers do what they need to do and just clear off and let them through.
Yep, excellent timing there. Just to get around one back marker and then pull up onto the next one at probably the safest part of this track. So Vining now again on the charge to try and open up that gap. Simon, you said the average pit stop was 56 seconds?
57, if you count driving down the pit lane and all that stuff. Then yeah, he will on average be losing 57 seconds. So that is the gap he needs to have in front of Felgen to be safely in front of him once he comes out of his pit stop. But right now he does not have that gap.
He's got to work it back up. Well, if he's going, he's still got, if he does pit at 45, he's still got about 5-6 minutes to make it happen. And then we'll have to watch Fellion to see how close he is in terms of just position on track. If there's any back markers he's got to get through. You certainly want to get around the back markers at least starting your next lap or as you go down Conrad's. But when you're somewhere on the mountain, maybe up towards the S's, skyline, the cutting, you don't want those back markers there because it's very dangerous to get around them just in general.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb is if you catch them on the mountain, you wait till the elbow, until after the elbow to go by. There's just, you can't, I mean, you want people to get out of the way, but there's nowhere to get out of the way going up and down that mountain. So it's bad luck if you catch them through there. But at the moment, Felgen has fairly open track in front of them, so they are free to just turn laps as fast as they can right now, where our leader is still fighting through traffic.
Yeah, that's all he can do and all he has to do right now. But to be fair, even if Felgen moves up in front of Vining after Vining's pit stop, he will then have a major tire disadvantage and fuel disadvantage. Well, fuel not so much. I think there's a good chance that Felgen will actually be carrying less fuel than Vining by the time Vining comes out of his pit stop. But that definitely opens up another spot of contention for Felgen, which is actually making sure he gets to the end. Because if I remember right, he did pit with an hour and 11 or something to go, which for most cars, if you don't fuel save, is you won't have any chance of going to the end. But as I said, the Ferrari might be one of those cars where fuel saving is relatively easy, but he'll definitely have to consciously think about that and, well, fuel save properly to make sure that he gets to the end and doesn't have to do a splash and dash at the end, or, God forbid, end in tears when he runs out of fuel like the last lap.
Yes. Yeah, it's downhill coming off the mountain, but not enough to roll all the way.
maybe if you hold the clutch, if you have a 3-pedal system, you can maybe make it work.
I've tried that. You can roll quite a way down from the Forest Elba, but on the Conrad Straight, you go uphill after a while again, and you won't make it over that hill.
Well, that's why you gotta run out of fuel after the hill, of course. And you can get down or you can get back to the start-finish line. Hearn losing his Porsche a little bit, thankfully able to keep it together as they go down into the Forest Elbow. Hearn actually had a really good exit out of the final corner, almost made the move on the Bentley, but had to back out last second. But he is still hungry for P13. They may be towards the back, but battles can still happen anywhere. You need every position you can get. Hopping back up right now, Chris Vining actually starting to pull up on, I believe, the number 39 Ferrari here as they go down the chase. And you can see just how many more cars he's got to get through.
Yeah, They're heading right deep into the center of the field, and as they point out, even when you're lapping them, every car is faster than the one you just lapped. That's why they're ahead of them. So every one of them gets more difficult. Hopefully all these drivers are doing the right thing and not impeding. Sometimes it's not intentional. You just get caught in a place where there's nowhere to go. But again, in second place, the track all to themselves. They've got a huge gap ahead and behind. They can just hit apexes and turn times right now. Falcon, and also gives them that opportunity if they need to save a little fuel, maybe turn that map down a little bit, let off a little early here and there, try and maintain that gap somewhere around 57 seconds. So it's a good race when they come out of the pits.
Well, Falcon with that 2-minute 2. It is a 2-minute 2.6 fastest lap. His last lap was a 2:02.9, and we're going to see just how much pace he's got as he comes across the line once more. And it looks like it is going to be a 2:02.7, so a little bit faster than his previous, but still with that best lap here. 45 just about left on the clock. We see Vischer into the pits. Not quite certain what that is for, but you can just see how much road Falcon has to work with, and he is more than happy to take that.
Very, very solid pace from Falcon right now. Being in the 202s on race fuel, on a fast track. The track is still only fast. We're not on an optimum track. So even on an optimum track, 202s on race fuel would be fast, but on a fast track, they are immensely fast.
Well, we've got the nice cool temperatures too. It is almost 3 p.m. in game, but we still only got 20%, or 20 degrees Celsius ambient and 26 track. So there's lots of nice thick oxygen out there for the engines to eat and the wings to cut through, and they're showing it. They're getting down within a second or so of those qualifying times.
Yeah, the track temp dropped by just a degree, so shouldn't affect the tires too much, but could possibly have some sort of maybe minor side effects later on. But with these guys, I highly doubt they're able to keep these temps up pretty well. Mullard right now leading from Walker as they go up and over the mountain towards Skyline. Everyone else just sort of in their own little world right now. In fact, Hazel, I believe, is getting passed by Partez. No, just beginning to battle with Partez. So this will be P8 up for grabs. Hazel managing to stay ahead into the cutting for the time being. But Partez has just been nibbling away at those, or at that gap. The last lap for Hazel was a 2:05.3, and then it was a 2:04.5 for Partez. So Partez definitely on pace here.
And not far behind that, after a really rough start to this race, Skelikins is coming in, closing in on Sack for potentially the fight for 10th place.
We'll have to keep an eye on this. Still 44.5 to go, so you know the drivers don't really have to worry too much about making a move just yet. They've got all the time in the world, but well, you don't want to wait too long, because then you might unintentionally build a gap, and after that, well, you know, you're sort of stuck in place. Hazel, though,
you've driven for this long, 45 minutes already, and you just hear your crew chief say you're halfway.
It is definitely something I don't think you want to hear, because normally you hear you're halfway, you all right, you know, got, you know, say maybe it's 10 minutes, you got 20 minutes, you got half an hour, all right, whatever, and you look up and you say, oh, there's a 4 there at the start, and there's a 5 next to it. That's definitely not something I'm used to seeing.
The half that's left is as long as a lot of the competitive races in ACC. So essentially, you've still got a whole race left on Mount Panorama, and it just told you you're halfway.
And for Josh in the chat, Falcon actually qualified in P4, but the first half of this race was absolutely mad. So we started in the rain. I think the rain stopped about 10 minutes into the race, but it still, of course, took quite a few minutes for the rain to, well, for the wet track to actually dry. However, we've had 2 people start on the dries in the form of Vining and Partez. Most of the fields on the wets went into the pits right as basically the switch point came from a a wet optimum track to a dry optimum track, but some of the wet runners actually stayed out long enough to maybe make it to the end with only that one pit stop. And Felgen is one of those, although it's very, very close for Felgen. He was in the pits with, I think, 1 hour and 11 to go, something around that. Just definitely not an easy amount of time to cover on one tank of fuel.
That'll be very, very tricky. But maybe going for a late stop. Vining has yet to pit. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe he's trying to go as long as humanly possible. And then maybe try to get a bit of a clearance deal on a pit stop. But right now we gotta hop back a little bit as Sack is starting to feel the pressure there. The horses being let out of the stable, and just behind them you see the Bentley and the Porsche that have been doing battle for quite a while. Down Conrads we go, and a little bit of a slipstream is gonna pull. Shelkin's a bit closer here, actually a lot closer, down into the kink towards the chase. Will he go for the inside line? No, he will not. Matty Sack holding on to that P10, albeit for at least one more lap, and that's even going to give Sayan a chance to catch up.
Vining still staying out, not yet pitted. Now the optimum point to pit would have, well, it has basically passed by 3 or 4 minutes. But obviously he still has fuel left in his car, and to be fair, even if he maybe took a bit too much fuel at the start of this race, if he still has fuel in his tank right now, he'll definitely want to stay out for a bit to maximize both of those fuel tanks.
Yeah, get his money's worth. Matty Sack, though, in the meantime, losing 2 positions at the first and the final turn. Lair into the pits, surprisingly, so I'm wondering what that's all about.
Well, there's quite a few people who still have to make another stop in this race after they're stopped to switch from wets to dries.
Oh, that's right.
Now, some of those drivers might have just filled up the tank as far as it goes and will do a little splash and dash towards the end of the race. Others might have only filled the tank up halfway and decided to basically do the second part of the race as a normal 2-stopper.
Well, we don't have the inner workings of these drivers' pit strategies. Sort of just here, calling things out. But we have a nice little 4-pack here. Mullard still defending this P3 from Walker, who has been unable to really make anything happen. Granias as well, starting to feel the pressure as Hazel and Partez catch up. So it looks like we're going to start seeing several battles start forming. Through the chase they go. Hazel still maintaining P8, but losing a bit of time there. Partez using every single bit of that Honda to try and close the gap as these 3 start yet another lap here around the mountain.
Same goes for Vining, still out on track, still running another lap on his old tires.
Perhaps the overcut to end all overcuts. If I'm being honest, we always talk about undercuts, but we never talk about pressing your luck, staying out as much as humanly possible, and then going from there. Not quite certain what the gap is down to Felion just yet, although Felion has improved his fastest lap, a 2:03.247, and it certainly feels like he's getting fastest laps 2:47. As he is.
Vining's only 3 1,000ths behind him at 2:03.250 for their last lap. So that gap shrunk for a while, but at least on that last lap, now they're both back out on open track. They both got space to themselves. So we'll see what the real pace is now, I think.
Be something that we can only wait to see what fruits come from this harvest. Mullard still defending this P3 through the chase. I know the Aston can struggle a little bit here at some points, and the Audi definitely one to take advantage of those. Grania still having to defend from Hazel, has lost quite a bit of time to, I believe, Humans. No, or actually, yeah, Humans has pulled away a little bit from this pack, a little bit more, and Hazel has gained some time to Partez, who's gained quite a lot of time. Oh, to a back marker, but Yeah, these three could possibly start clashing here in the next couple of laps, especially when the Ferrari and the Audi start fighting. That'll give Partez a chance to catch up and possibly go for a move. Grania is not getting the chase quite well enough, and that'll bring Hazel to go around the outside. Did Granius just try to fake the pit? I don't think he did. He might have tried to go for a line down the inside, and Partez is going to pick it up as well.
And we've got Skoyen going past Skelikans. I've been waiting for that all year. Got to say both of the ones I'm no good at. That is the battle for 10th. So again, they both had sort of rough starts to this race. They were both running up near the front, and at least there's now fighting for top 10.
We had the Aston Martin there of Matty Stack hitting the wall there. Thankfully, was able to keep his Aston Martin going. But yeah, the move there from Granius, I'm actually kind of interested in trying to figure out why. It looked like he might have tried to fake going into the pits and then backed out and then realized that he just compromised himself, tried to hold on to his position down into the final corner and just ended up losing it. So now he's got all that work to do. Hazel more than happy to take that P7. Partez with P8, and they're going to try to open up a gap now with Granius. Definitely seeing a little bit of blood in the water as Partez taps the wall there. And it's another tap, and off goes Partez into the wall, and that Honda has definitely seen better days.
Boy, the parts department in that garage has got to be looking, because that's not the first time they've been in the wall today, and they just touched it again coming down the hill. It's going to be a lot of body panels to replace.
Yeah, looks like he tried to just turn in to a piece of real estate that had already been taken. So that first tap up and over the top just unsettled the Honda a little bit. Tried to recover off the mistake, perhaps playing more off of motion and that little bit of tilt you can get when you do lose a position off of something like that. And well, unfortunately went into the side there of Granius, or not Granius, excuse me. But yeah, what we just said was just a light tap and into the wall head on. Another wall claiming a victim, and Partez will dive into the pits.
And our leader is finally in as well. Finding
there he is.
Finally.
35
minutes left
to go.
Oh.
Well, all eyes now is on the Norwegian here, number 17. Felion, P2 right now, and I think he is more than close enough to possibly get this position as he does go down Conrad's through the kink here in just a second, and then down towards the chase. Vining perhaps staying out a little too long and will end up losing this position. However, maybe using fresher tires to his advantage as Felion down into Murray's corner. Vining still in the pits, and you can see Partez in picture as well, getting those damages repaired. But for Felion, feels like it's been a long time coming, and when you know it, it's time to get that P number 1 and get back out there. Vining just released from the pit box.
Actually, quite a big gap between those two now, but like I said, Vining is going to have a massive tire advantage now, seeing as he stayed out very long. Fuel advantage, not so much, but he is not going to have to worry about fuel, and Felgen is definitely going to have to save a little bit of fuel to make it to the end, or make another splash and dash, which is definitely going to put him behind Vining again.
And there is one back marker between the two of them as well that Vining is going to have to get by on these still fresh, but still under pressure and cool tires. Before they can really try and re-engage. Other than that, it looks like the two of them are going to have some open track to play with for the rest of this. One sprint race left, I guess.
What if, well, if we were talking last season, yeah, it would be one sprint race. But this is like, you know, you could say, well, if you look at it, you say, well, the second super sprint race has already started. So,
yes,
you know, you got some time. It's only 7 minutes into that kind of race. But, yeah, it's going to be quite a lot of work for Vining to make up the ground, as I thought Mullard was about to lose it there. Up into
nearly 10 seconds. Nearly 10 seconds right now. It'll be interesting to see whether that number starts to come down or whether got enough left to keep that gap.
well, what feels like two titans of industry here in the European splits. We'll definitely get ready to do battle Salian into the pits as well. Mullard still holding on to that P3 from Walker, as we see Partez here just exiting shot. Partez down in P14, so that touch definitely not going his way, and has to deal with the consequences of those actions. Did not mention it earlier in any way, shape, or form. Coelho with 10 seconds. And unless he goes for a pit, that is going to be added on at the end, so that could be a potential P5 loss, unless he can find some time somewhere to hold on to a top 5 finish. But Humans will definitely be looking to gain that position for as little work as humanly possible. Currently about 8.7 or so seconds back, so if he can hold station here, then it'll be a nice, handy-dandy little P5 for him.
And would you believe it? I have news for you.
Oh boy.
Rain in 30.
Oh my god. But it's gonna be right at the end too.
Left. 2 laps left. It's gonna start to rain.
Oh.
It's gonna be a few more minutes actually. It's gonna be coming in probably a few minutes less than 30, because it's been on the screen for, let's say, 2 minutes or so. So definitely not nearly enough for anyone to possibly think about going onto wet tires, but it's definitely gonna mix things up towards the end and force everyone, and not only those who started on dry tires, to you know, drive a little handful of laps on dry tires in the wet.
On warm dry tires in the wet.
That's true, yeah. The mountain giveth, the mountain taketh. She gives us quite an exciting race, but she'll always throw a little twist into the mix. Right now we see Vining there having to get around the number 72 McLaren as we go on to Conrad's, and then it's Salian up ahead, so still a bit of time before true clear air again for Vining. Felion is, well, he is just gone. I don't think there's any cars in his line of sight. No, there is not.
Yeah.
So
the gap
definitely
is opening as well, so
yep.
Yeah, first to second is now 10.5.
Yep.
Yeah, no guarantees right now that even on the new tires that Chris Vining is actually, you know, necessarily being able to go any faster than Felgen, but there's definitely gonna come a point when Felgen has to start saving fuel, and well, who knows how soon that point is gonna come, and how much he's going to lose in terms of pace.
Yeah, popping back a little bit in the field here, Cairns and Vischer. This is the battle for P16. The beefy BMW right now in that slipstream. Down Conrad's we go into the kink. He's going to pull out to the right side. Are they going to go door to door? Yes, they are going to go through. Vischer, oh no, I just had to say it, and Vischer completely loses it there. Gonna just roll that one back. So the move was done, and it looks like, oh, the car might have just hit a weird little bit of undulation, and that BMW is way off into the gravel trap. And actually, off camera, Vischer, it was a really good move, but unfortunately it just did not work out, and Cairns actually goes into the pits.
Right-hand kink before the chase is something you have to either find out painfully or you have to find out luckily in practice, because going side by side there is possible but very tricky, especially for the inside car. There is not only a massive curb on the inside of that corner that if you hit will kill you, but there's also a little bit of a bump. So even if you don't hit that curb, if you are close enough to the inside and have to be aggressive enough with the steering angle to leave enough space for the outside car, then in a lot of cars, and if you're not aware of it, then you will have a very hard time being able to keep that car on the road. That bump is definitely able to unsettle you very easily.
Yeah, Vischer tried to save it. He almost had it there, but just turned one way, flicked to the other, and well, that was pretty much over and out.
Coelho finding themselves in a very interesting position right now. They're chasing down Walker. They've been within sort of 0.5 to 0.6 seconds for quite a while now. But they're also trying to open up that gap behind to Hazel. So if they can get past Walker and open up a little more than a second, they will maintain 5th position. but they're kind of pinched right now. Rock in a hard place moment. They're fast enough to open up that gap, but they've got to get past Walker to do it.
We've got news from the front as well. Felgen on the last lap, or I think 2 laps ago, almost matched his personal best, even now on really, really old and worn tires. But Vining absolutely smoking the old fastest lap of Felgen by going more than half a second faster, and now setting a new fastest race lap of a 2:02.152.
Well, last lap was a full second faster.
Yep, he's got around that traffic. And if we look to Felgen just now going down the S's. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there is any car between them. So now Vining, with that fresher rubber, up to temperature, up to pressure, he is starting the charge up to P1. He's going to be using every inch of the track and every single bit of energy under the hood to try and close this gap up. There's still plenty of time, 27 minutes to go. And gentlemen, look at the weather. The rain prediction is over and out. So this may be exactly what Vining needs.
Oh, I'll tell you, this little rain prediction has only moved in between that 10 to 30 minute space. This is just telling us right now that in 30 minutes it's going to be dry again. That doesn't mean that in, let's say, 22 minutes or something, it's not going to start raining.
Shush, don't kill my vibe. Don't you dare kill my vibe.
To add to that, the track has now gone optimum, so that little bit of rain might just take that away again as well. So.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think it'll. When the rain comes, I don't think it'll have too much of an effect. I will, compromise the grip of the track, absolutely, but I don't think we'll be seeing a wet track. I don't think it'll be, a downpour and having to go at pit lane speeds over the top of the mountain because there's just no grip. But
fastest.
Yeah, 201.9.
Oh boy, Vining! Wow, he's closing in on that 2-minute barrier. That Mercedes is angry and definitely letting that rage out right now. The gap has fallen.
1.5 seconds on the last lap alone. That is a statement. And if he keeps that up, he's going to be on the back of Felgen in 5 laps.
Well, that's the...
there is one lap car between them, so I suspect
Yep.
Felgen has had to get past the 2:12 this lap. That perhaps cost them that speed, but regardless of what the cause was, it happened.
Yep.
If you're watching numbers coming down that fast as the driver in front, it's got to be making you sweat.
To be fair, Felgen didn't really lose pace. He's still, putting out a relatively solid pace for such old tires, but it's just this Vining is being an absolute animal right now and going into the 201s.
Yeah.
Absolutely right now. Got to just back up a little bit. It's Schalkens with Hearn again. So he gets around at the end of Conrad's through the chase. Down into Murray's corner they go. It's the inside line for the Ferrari. It's Hearn a little bit later on the brakes. He's going to try to make the move stick around the outside. And he actually does. These two putting on quite the showing here for P9.
Again, they both had rough moments in this race. It just goes to show, keep racing, keep pushing. They're now racing. They're in the top 10, racing for 9th.
Schalken's trying to get a little bit more temp in those tires, although it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Realistically, Hearn is starting to pull away, though. So this is probably going to come down to the wire for these two. You can see the right side there of the Ferrari a little scratched up. Perhaps a little bit of rubbing and racing. I know that NASCAR is kind of their thing, but hey, it can transcend the motorsport borders. We hop back up front right now. It's Mullard feeling Walker's just amazing pace right now, and even Coelho there in the back, although it will not matter too much with that 10 sec. Or sorry, that's Partez, who's a back marker. So perhaps that slowed down Mullard and gave Walker a chance to catch up, but yeah, no, we got battles for P3, we got P9, potentially P1 by the end, and Cyan here in P12 with Guerrero behind, so P12 also being Battleground, and I believe Vining still has to get around Vischer. Yes, he does. Yes. He's actually lost some time, it looks like.
Well, the gap to Felgen is still dropping down to 6.5, but that closing rate is certainly down. It's not a second and a half yet this lap.
No, it was only 1.2 seconds on
Only
the last.
1.2.
Get it right, Kevin.
We're supposed to be generating tension, right? I'm
Yeah. Oh,
no.
goodness.
We've just seen Partis in the wall again, and I gotta say,
Oh.
what a heartbreaking race for Partis.
Ah.
Don't forget, he was ahead of Vining at the start of this race for a
Oh,
while.
goodness.
But
Big hit
Oh.
there at the top there just before Solomon.
and he does not look comfortable in that Honda right now. He's given the wall another 2 little scrapes coming down that hill.
Yeah, he was doing
So not
very
much.
well too. I mean, definitely showing that his Honda
Yeah.
was something to be fearful of. But you just saw the tap earlier on in the race, and that just put him into the wall and just sort of ruined any pace he had. So perhaps sort of still reeling from that. Shelkins, though, into the pits. And yeah, it looks like Guerrero is well into the pits.
And Partis is probably going to come to the pits as well. He has steering damage from that little incident. And I'm not sure what exactly is causing that, but maybe we're starting to get into, well, the later stages of this race where the fatigue is getting to the drivers.
Yeah, an hour and a half is a long time to be driving, especially for our drivers who are constantly doing things, or constantly doing races that are 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, but to add on an extra half an hour to a track that already requires 100% focus, it definitely does a number on you by the end, regardless of where you are in terms of time limits. So, these guys, despite all the practice they have and all the experience, it is definitely starting to get to some of them.
Yeah, and the mistakes are happening in places you expect. At the end of the chase was where Skelegans went yellow, and it happens. It's so easy to get that breaking point wrong, especially like you said, you're getting in here, the tires are coming down, your fuel load's coming off, your concentration might be fading a little bit. Very, very easy to start making mistakes. Of all the places to make it, though, at least the chase, there's some runoff.
Speaking of concentration, I unfortunately have to correct you. It wasn't the chase. It was on the Conrad Strait where Skelegans crashed. He must have just briefly looked away, or maybe he had some sort of technical trouble. I don't know. But he just started veering to the left into the grass on the Conrad Straits and lost the car and smashed into the wall.
It is.
Well, thank you for setting that straight.
Yes.
Yes.
A very unusual incident, but yeah, could be just losing concentration for just a second and expecting to be just fine on the straights by looking away for a second. And even on a straight, very risky thing to do.
It is. I've found myself in races I've done, just in general and all of that. I find that I too will, just say, oh, I'm on a straight. I can look away for a little bit. That's no big deal. But then you always end up veering. It's an odd thing.
And by the way, we can definitely tell that Felgen is now starting to, see Vining in his rearview mirrors at some occasions, because Felgen is pushing, and he has now, on these ancient, at this point, tires, beaten his personal best to do a 2:02.6, more than a tenth faster than his earlier fastest lap.
Well, unfortunately,
Still far away. At this point, Vining's 2:01.7.
Yep.
Yes.
That's almost a full second ahead of Felgen, although Vining still has some traffic to get through. In fact, we see him right now, and he has a very clear shot of Felgen.
Yeah, it's visible now, and of all the places to catch one of those back markers, this straight is it. So assuming the right thing is done and everybody gets out of the way here, Vining should be able to get at least one of these two. There we go. Well done. It's got one of those two markers out of the way now. But yes, Felgen is doing exactly what they need to do. Put another one in there. Put another one in there. Put as many as you can. between you and them, hoping to slow them down, because straight up the car is faster. So you got to do whatever you can to keep that gap.
There's still
He's got one more in front of him to get in there.
No,
in
he's
that
got
sandwich.
2 more. He's got 2 more to get through. 2 more back markers. He's got Cairns and Cuthbert still to manage, although he is behind quite a considerable amount as they head up the mountain straight here. So perhaps by the time we get back down to Conrad's, we could see Vining getting around at least 1, and then maybe if he can play his cards just right and the universe throws him a bone, he could get around Cuthbert at the start-finish straight. But still, 17 and a half to go. The Mercedes is a car that is just absolutely brutal to everyone else on the mountain, especially once it's dry. He struggled early on with the wet weather. He stayed out on slicks. He spun at the start. Thankfully, no damage. And then had to work his way through the field again and stayed out for what was probably the longest stint I've ever seen anybody do here on the mountain. And he has just been champing away at the gap that Felion was so comfortable with. The last lap for Felion was a 2:02.8. Vining's a 2-minute 1.9.
And Felgen is actually still losing time after having to get past Matti Sack, who had a little bit of a moment down the mountain. Felgen has lost more than a second there to Vining again. But
Vining
with
gets around
Felgen,
Cairns. He's got to get around Cuthbert, and he's got to get around Sack, and then, well, it's just the leader that has to get taken care of as they head down towards the chase. Is this going to be another possible opportunity to get around Matty Sack and get around Cuthbert soon on? Yes, it is. Oh. Almost a touch there. But these two guys, they know each other. Well, Vining's probably gone past Sack in a couple of occasions with the blue flag waving in the air, and now it's just Cuthbert between Vining and a shot at the top step as we have just under 16 to play here.
Down to less than 3 seconds and only 1 car. Felton's got to be feeling like he's got an F2 motor right now.
GP2 engine, in fact.
GP2, yeah.
Right.
But look at where we are. We're on the mountain straight. Vining has speed. Cuthbert is going to let him through. And the worst case for Felion has just been realized as he looks back and he sees the blue and white Mercedes eyeing him up. This could be it for Felion.
I'm gonna be honest, I mean, judging from Felgen's pace, he has definitely done well to save his tires, so the tires are not gonna be the crucial problem for Felgen towards the end of this race. But I would love to have a little look inside the tank of his and see how much fuel he actually has left.
Well,
because
if we look... oh, it doesn't tell us. Darn.
Nope, it does not tell us.
Oh, these
We'd have
crafty
to,
developers.
we'd have to have his perspective. But he is still in map 1, in the engine map 1. So, like I said, I'm not hugely familiar with the Ferrari, and perhaps there's a chance that the Ferrari is actually just that good at fuel saving, even in map 1. But I would think if you want to save fuel, you definitely don't want to be in map 1. But so far, it looks like he has... That's what he has been doing for this entire race. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with his fuel towards the end of this race.
Well, he's still got...
Maybe...
Go ahead.
Maybe he has accepted his fate and already is planning to do another little splash and dash. So who knows?
Maybe. The gap now, it's just about 2 seconds. Vining has spent what feels like the majority of this race just chipping away at this Ferrari. I know we talked earlier, very early on in the broadcast, about some people still donning those pineapple supportive liveries. And perhaps Vining is a little upset that he has to look at it and wants to get it out of his sight and out of his mind. I mean, the Mercedes looks angry. Perhaps it also is not a fan of such a topping.
And right now we can see on the range radar 10 minutes. is where the rain is going to show up. So the last 3 minutes and 30 seconds of this race are going to be.
I was gonna hope it wasn't the
wet.
last 3 hours. Oh my god! Like, please no, I gotta do it again. Like later.
You've got 2 more to do tonight. Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I got 2 more to do. I'm gonna probably. Well, I'll say I'll go to bed, but I'm probably gonna stay up for another like 2-3 hours, and then fall asleep at 3 and be like, why am I tired?
Yeah.
Fair enough. But by the way, let's take a tiny little break from all the excitement, because Josh in the track is asking us which tracks we actually want to see added to ACC next. And from my perspective, 100% Hockenheimring. 100%. I mean, no other option. As much as we will all want the Nordschleife to be added to ACC, of course, I think there's a very, very low chance that's ever going to happen.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, I gotta cut you off. We have Matty Sack here with a bit of a moment as he gets caught up with the wall, and Granias will slip on through. Looks like he might have just gotten a little bit loose out of the corner. We'll see. Oh, he just sort of overshoots it, actually. Just miscalculates one of those S's. And, yeah, the Ferrari just pushing on through. So just a little development here in the battle for, it looks like, P9. Actually, that might not have been Granias. That may have been a different backmarker car. Oh, and we've actually got Granias spinning off, so he was
look
probably
what you've done.
probably so upset. Let's give this a peek. So this is coming down. This is into the kink, and it looks like he actually gets a touch from Vischer on the back end and actually runs into him. Thankfully, was able to, well, just get pointed in the right direction, and Vischer was way off the track, so a slight miscommunication.
That was a solid 720 though to get back in the right direction.
That was very good. Unfortunately, I don't think we're scoring points for style this race, if I'm correct. I could be wrong though, unless I missed the memo.
I'm hoping the AP race that happened this morning must be hoping so, because they only had a perfect 360 in that same spot.
Oh,
well, I guess he gets extra points for being the driver of the day, but I think right now the best chance at being voted driver of the day is definitely coming from Felgen and Vining.
Yep, we can just see a back marker up ahead. Vining doing a very, very good job to chip away, cut away, and try to pull away, but there's still rain. The final hurdle on the mountain, as if it wasn't bad enough to start in the rain. We might as well end it in the rain. Around Forest Elbow we go, and just up ahead, I believe, is Lier. It could be just misidentifying, but to me it sounds like an Audi up ahead, and if I'm a betting man, it is Lier, the unfriendly ghost, but still quite a gap to work with. Felgen just everything he can, just try to find some time. Vining is having none of it, though.
And Vining is now in draft.
Yep. Well, he's very close. Oh, and Felgen is coming into the pits.
This may be the splash and dash. Oh, he
he's
overshoots.
Messed up his entrance.
Oh no, this has just gone from bad to worse. So, is this a splash and dash, or is this maybe a preemptive strike on the wets? No, probably a splash and dash.
Surely not.
If it's a splash and dash, he's still got a chance, because the number 97 in third place is just getting to the chase now. So, and Felgen is already moving. So yeah, it was just a splash of fuel. They're going to maintain second place, but they're going to come out behind all those cars that they just put in all that effort lapping.
Well,
you have to do it all again.
It could possibly be over, under, and out for Felgen. All that traffic, like you said, to get through. Vining.
Yep, he's already out.
Didn't even have to work for that first place all that much once he got close enough.
Boy.
Just Felgen diving in, and then maybe just a little absent-mindedly going onto the gravel.
I have to take it halfway back, too. They are right on their rear bumper. That race for second place is now a 3-car race between Felgen, Walker, and Mullard.
Yes. Unfortunately, a bit of an anticlimactic end to this battle for P1. But
yeah, absolutely.
Don't forget, we have rain to come in very soon. So there's still a chance for things to be mixed up towards the end.
Yeah, and it just passed into the little, what is that, little in-between realm
of
the current time in 10 minutes. So This is gonna be interesting. I don't think we'll have enough liquid on the track to make it full wet. At the very least, I would not be surprised if the track was greasy by the end.
Ryan Walker, by the way, definitely is going to have to come in as well. He has already been out on track for 1 hour and 5 minutes, so he's definitely now on the very last leg of his fuel. Mullard, behind him, has been out on track for 1 hour and 1 minute, so who knows if he's able to really save the fuel in that Audi, then he may be able to go to the end, but it's not going to be easy.
And then Coelho with the penalty, Hazel, and Hazel at least might be looking at a podium.
That's true. It could be the podium after what seems like just an entire race of driving around to, at the end be like, hey, you get a 3rd spot on the podium. I mean, that's great. Unless she's already done those calculations and is maybe realizing that, hey, this could be real. So just stick where you are and just wait for that last flag to finally drop.
Yeah, Hazel has only been out on track since her last pit stop for 55 minutes, so if she filled up her tank to the max, she's definitely able to make it to the end without another pit stop or without fuel saving. So might be an outside contender for another podium, but I gotta say, she's 55 seconds behind Mullard, and even a splash and dash, even a full pit stop is only going to be 57 seconds, so a splash and dash is going to cut that down to roughly 30 seconds, probably a bit over 30 seconds.
Still plenty of time to guess and to theory craft. I mean, think about it. We've had quite a long race. We've had a lot happen with a lot of these drivers. We've had the pit stop sort of rule change instead of having these. The mandatory stops and the pit window and, set times for fueling and this and that. It's really kind of shown us just how hectic things can get once you let these guys loose. And you say, you know what? Don't worry about stopping. You stop whenever you want. You can do whatever you want when you're in the pits. We don't care. Just get to the end.
And I gotta say, my expectations for this race were as high as they could have possibly been, and I have not been disappointed at all.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Bathurst is always a track that produces such exciting races, regardless of the rule set and regardless of even the discipline. And, well, these guys have done an amazing job with these GT3 cars here on the mountain, in the land down under, and we've still got 5.5 to go.
Yeah, don't forget in the rain. It was this unbelievable skill level shown today.
And look how dark those clouds are getting. Oh, we've had... what is that? Fisher has spun out of the final corner.
Let's roll this one back. Down into Murray's corner. He goes, looks like a little bit onto the grass, and just a little too much curb, actually. And it just hopped the car up and unsettled it. Vischer's evening has gone from bad to worse here after his incident at the chase, getting tagged up. And, well, at this point, it's more about just getting to the end. Shoutouts to Sven Vischer from Germany for just sticking in it despite being the only amateur class driver and despite having not the best of races, still just hanging in there and getting these laps done. I mean, that's something I think we can all respect.
Sure, and at Bathurst, any practice you can get is good practice.
Of course.
Yeah, and any race you finish is a good one. 2 laps down, 3 laps down, 5 laps down, doesn't matter. If you finished a 90-minute race at Bathurst, that should be on your CV.
Especially when you're the only person in your class to actually show up. So I'm sure Vischer will have the club meeting with the amateurs and be like, so, where were you guys last week, huh? What happened there? Oh, you weren't at the mountain? That's a shame. I was. I may have been knocked around, partially of my own accord, partially because of other people, but I saw a checkered flag. So, yeah, Vischer, though. I
scored points.
Yeah, exactly. Huge shout-outs to Vischer, though, for sticking in it.
Yeah.
We've had people, park it for less in races, but Vischer just doesn't care. And, gentlemen, What's that thing that comes down from the sky sometimes? What was that called?
Ah,
Oh, the liquid sunshine.
Yeah, that stuff.
Oh, look at that. There's liquid sunshine all over the place.
Yeah, it's
3
coming
updates
down.
for you guys.
3.5.
The rain has started.
Perfect
Hazel
call.
is past Quelio, and we have a 10-second penalty for Granis.
And Walker into the pits. Walker, this better be a splash and dash, because I don't think there's going to be enough time for those wets to even come into operation.
I think we had determined that they were going to be one of the ones that could not make it. So with 3 minutes left, I think, yeah, that's 2 leaders and a shamed face, I think, there.
Yeah, Walker, the Aston Martin strategist, possibly dropping the ball on this one today. But hey, there's always next week.
Yeah, they keep making decisions like that. They'll be working for Ferrari by next week.
Oh, no. Oh, you... Oh God, I saw a video recommended to me, and it was like Charles Leclerc. It was like the best and worst of Charles Leclerc season. I think it was like the official F1 channel. I'm like, I don't even need to watch it because I already know. But thanks, Chief.
Yeah, best moment, every moment in the car, except for the one, well, twice that he's crashed now. Worst moment, every
other time.
Strategy call of the season.
He had a really good start to the season too. Like that's the thing. Like the season started really well for him, and then Ferrari was just like, all right, you've had enough. We have to go back
some hope.
Yeah, have some hope.
No, now give it back.
Charles, you did not have slow button on. Slow button needs to be on during the race. Oh goodness! Don't let them hear that. We're probably gonna get a cease and desist letter.
I don't think there's any chance I'm ever gonna get hired by. I'm not too worried about offending them.
See, that's why I'm going for a booth job. That way I don't get hired by anybody. It all works out in the end. You see, like
well, Vining has just crossed the line. I wanted to mention 140 left, so we are on our last lap. And after 90 minutes, and with this dribbling of rain, I'll bet you those are very nice words to hear. This is the final lap.
Yep, and you see the gap down to Felion is, well, Felion just now going through the chase. So for Vining, if anything, this is just more of a victory lap, a little bit of a showing of just how dominant this Mercedes can be. He was out on the slicks as it was just pouring. He stayed out. He had a spin. He did have a spin on the parade lap, but thankfully, because of rules and whatnot, was able to get back into his position, and then had a bit of a moment and ended up down in the standings, and then stayed out for quite a long time, and has used this fresher rubber to make it happen. He's got to lift a little bit. He's slipping a little bit here as he goes over the top. That greasy track definitely playing into a bit of difficulty in the AMG, but what a showing by Vining. Just head down racing, not caring about much of anything, and getting around Felion right at the end. This man has had an absolute amazing evening.
That's the combination of amazing pace, no mistakes, and the perfectly right, even if it was really risky, strategy call.
And I'm betting as a Mercedes driver, they had this one circled on their calendar. The first 3 were certainly not Mercedes tracks, and arguably the next 3 aren't either. But halfway through the season, there's this lovely long straightaways that the Mercedes just loves to roar up, and I'm betting they had this one on the calendar all year.
A little oasis in the desert that's been the season for Mercedes. Chris Vining showing us just what it means to be one of the best in the Octane Online Racing European theater as he rounds Murray's Corner for the very last time. An hour and a half of racing behind him. What a victory here by the Brit, and Felion still quite a ways back for P2.
That was a flex. That was an absolutely come-get-me moment, and nobody could. So congratulations to Vining today. That was an excellent decision, superb driving, and it ended up exactly as it should, in a dominant win.
It did. The rain just letting off now. Felion almost losing his Ferrari. We've had Hearn and Humans come across the line, 7 and 8 for them. Sack 13, Lair 14th, Cuthbert 15th, Skelkin 16th, Karen 17th, and Vischer 18th after quite a heartbreaking afternoon. Felion comes across the line, and Ben Mollard picking up a podium position. Job well done for him. The Bentley as well, I just saw of Sayan getting through. Same with Granez In fact, it looks like Sayan may even pick up P9 here, because he's 9.9 seconds, and Granius with that 10-second penalty. It's just barely enough. But Delilah Hazel, despite having a team name to meet a very special person in motorsport, she does not have a date with Barry R, a lovely, strong gentleman. But what a race for the Finn here, P4.
Yeah, we said there was a chance at a podium, and I believe Mullard, did they not have to stop after all of that?
Mullard did not. Mullard just strategized perfectly and stayed out, but Hazel
is fuel saving.
Just
very impressive fuel saving, yeah.
Absolutely. Hazel can be very happy with that P4. Coelho P5, but with 10 seconds, and Walker, well, it looks like Coelho is going to hold on to the P5, so the only drivers yet to cross the line, Partez here, one of the drivers that started off on slicks, and it paid off, but unfortunately, a bit of bad luck ended his chances at a top 3 finish, so he'll have to settle for P12. And Ryan Walker here, down Conrad's for the last time into the chase, and what a race he's had. It's going to be P6 for the Aston Martin.
And the overall pace today, that's got to be mentioned, 43 laps, even in the rain and the changing conditions, and in some cases multiple pit stops. 43 laps they got in today. That is a tremendous amount of track to cover in that period of time.
It really is, and these guys really just showing up, showing out, and showing what they're all about. But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time that we perhaps take a look at the final standings of all things here for the European split. So, in the race overall, it's Vining on top. Fellion and Mullard. Vining benefiting greatly from that slick tire start and then staying out for as long as he could. And he is rewarded handsomely for his efforts. Pro-Am, it's going to be Hearn, Humans, and Guerrero, top 3. And of course, Vischer, lonesome by himself in the amateur class, but he can take home the ribbon of Bathurst and flex on everybody else. But gentlemen, what a race we've had this evening.
This did not disappoint. I think we might have just seen the highlight of the season.
Oh, I don't know. We still got North America to go through. There's 2 chances for NA to put on a bit of a show.
If this hasn't been the highlight, then we have quite something to look for.
That was certainly, again, 90 minutes on a track that's always exciting, in the rain, with great racing, great strategy calls. That it never stood a chance of being anything but amazing. So that was, I'm glad I got to see this one.
Absolutely. And just, again, a quick moment here to talk about Babby here with the his colon cancer diagnosis. Again, that GoFundMe is still up, of course, and we do have the special 8-hour race coming up at the start of September. So any and all support greatly appreciated. Cancer sucks, no matter the type, and one day I hope we aim to get rid of it. But gentlemen, closing thoughts for tonight's broadcast?
I'm all but speechless again because I have to go and do this now. I'll leave it to Simon to take us out.
Kevin, best of luck. I think you might need it. I'll have my fingers crossed for you that it doesn't rain for you as well. But this rain, this race, it had everything, and it had more than I was expecting. I was not counting on rain, and the rain came in and made things even more exciting than they would have been otherwise. But hey, big congrats and big props to any drivers who finished, no matter where they finished. This was a grueling race with rain at the start, rain at the end, and even if there may have been some mistakes, there were a lot of lessons learned, and anyone who made it to the end can be proud of that.
One thing I will mention, actually I just remembered, because of the length of these, I believe our first North American stream is starting 15 minutes earlier than usual today, to allow for qualifying starting 15 minutes earlier than usual. We don't want to make our second folks wait any longer than they have to start their race.
Well, I'll be able to confirm or deny that later on in the evening.
Please do, because you're the one that's streaming it. So.
Yeah, I am. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here tonight in the European Theater. We're going to be back next week, I believe, at COTA, or is it Indianapolis for next week?
Oh dear, I spent so much time focusing on this week I didn't look.
I believe we will be at Circuit of the Americas next week for what I can only describe as probably one of the most exciting sprint races that we've had. It is going to be COTA, so sprint race, 1 hour on one of the 3 new tracks here in this North American DLC. So hope to see you there. But ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, Simon Bauer, Kevin Parody, and everybody here at the OOR, we thank you so much for your continued support. There's a week between us and the soils of North America, and I will be back here later tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.
On the dance floor.